What's one of the best roles you've ever had and why?
I think one of the most meaningful roles I've had beyond my core HR remit has been leading our employee resource groups, which focus on gender equity and disability inclusion. Those roles actually give me the platform to literally turn, say, values into actions and to influence the colleague experience in a very tangible way. And I feel that what made them so rewarding was the ability to actually co-create some of the practical solutions that genuinely shifted barriers. So let me give you an example. Like, for example, like an employee resource group, what we did was we helped shape programs such as Returnship Initiative, which supported colleagues or women specifically re-entering the workforce after extended career breaks, and even our equitable parental leave policies that actually recognize diverse family structures. We also work closely with teams to embed inclusive recruitment practices, ensuring we design processes that are more accessible, unbiased, and reflective of the communities that we serve. On the disability inclusion side, we also partnered with colleagues to strengthen our workplace adjustments approach, which means including introduction of, say, like an adjustment passports, so people don't have to repeatedly explain their needs as they move roles or managers. We also champion like a talent accelerator program to support underrepresented colleagues in progressing into leadership roles. So these are some of the examples that I thought will give you a little bit more flavor about the kind of role that I did. And overall, if I were to see what I loved most was the end-to-end impact that that helped advice on an inclusive design at every stage of employee life cycle. So be it from attraction to hiring to development to progression and culture. These roles also taught me that inclusion becomes real when it's built into systems, not bolted as an afterthought. So yeah, being trusted to help shape that journey has been one of the most fulfilling parts of my career.
What's one decision you've made that helped you align your work with your values?
I think the behaviors that deeply align my work with the values was choosing to be open about my own disability and using that experience to really inform how I shape people practices. Trust me, it was not an easy decision because visibility can feel vulnerable, but it fundamentally changed the way I led, when I started thinking in that ways. So by bringing my lived experiences into the conversation, I thought I was able to advocate more confidently for those systematic changes that I knew would make that real difference. It also pushed me to prioritize accessibility, not just as an add-on, but as a design principle. That actually meant treating the symptoms instead of causing. So be it voicing out challenges such as workforce adjustments or to think differently about recruitment, even looking at like, say, accessible job description to more inclusive assessment formats. So that decision helped me align my work with what I care about, which is, having that dignity, fairness, and removing those unnecessary barriers. I think it also reminded me that inclusion is strongest when it's formed both by data and lived experiences. And choosing to bring that part of my life into my workforce really allowed me to create an environment where even, more than me, others also feel the same.
What is the biggest thing you've done to create or improve social impact?
I don't think there is one big thing that I've done to improve social impact, because for me, it's about that accumulation of small, consistent actions that create real change over time. So what I've learned is that impact isn't always like loud or dramatic. Often it's those everyday choices, the conversations, the role modeling, and the willingness to kind of show up with vulnerability that actually shifts culture. So outside my HR role, I've tried to use every platform available to push this agenda forward. So I'm a big adventure sport enthusiast, so I'm a scuba diver, a skydiver. I've sometimes even flown planes. And I share those experiences on social media to challenge those assumptions about what people with disabilities can or can't do. It's a small way of expanding that narrative and showing that disability and ambition aren't mutually exclusive, and usually has always worked for me. I also serve on the city HR shadow board, where I work with fellow organizations and government agencies to really shape more inclusive practices across the wider HR community. So again, I think it's a powerful space to influence policy thinking and help others embed inclusion in their own systems. Apart from that, I also stay active in communities, like speaking on panels, contributing to networks, advocating for disability inclusion and gender equity at every space that I get to talk about it. Again, what I've learned is these conversations help normalize the topic and keep it on the agenda in rooms where actually decisions are made. So while again, I wouldn't point to a single big achievement, but what I think I'm proud of is the collective impact of these small intentional actions, because I think they've helped shift mindsets, open doors, and create environments where people can thrive.
Can you share some key milestones or proudest moments in your career?
I think one of the milestones that I'm proud of is my upcoming association as a board member with Humanity and Inclusion. And it's a global organization that supports disabled and vulnerable people affected by poverty, conflict, and disaster. And I thought for me, this isn't just a professional achievement. It's a deeply personal alignment of values, lived experience with purpose. So being invited into this space feels significant because it allows me to contribute to inclusion at scale, far beyond the boundaries of the corporate HR, which I'm kind of very comfortable doing. I think this is an opportunity to really influence programs and policies that directly impact people's safety, their day-to-day living, and access to opportunity in some of the most challenging contexts in the world. I also think it's the kind of work that reminds me why I care so deeply about social impact in the first place. So I think this milestone also represents a full circle moment for me, because my own disability has shaped how I see the world, how I lead, and what I advocate for. So to now be in this position where I can use that lived experiences to support an organization doing such a massively critical work feels, I think, incredibly meaningful. So it's a milestone that it feels less like a career highlight, but more like a calling. And I'm genuinely excited for the work ahead.
So, what is one project or piece of work that taught you a big lesson about impact, and what did you take from it?
I think one project that taught me an impact, was when I led the redesign of our early career talent accelerator program, which was across multiple markets. While in paper, it was just a talent initiative, new pathways, clearer progression, a better capability building. But what I didn't anticipate was how much it would reveal about equity, access, and the invisible barriers people face at the start of their careers. So what happened was, when we began the work, I made a deliberate choice to bring in voices which we don't hear from. So be it graduates, interns, colleagues from underrepresented groups, people who've taken non-traditional routes in the organizations. And their stories completely reshaped the direction of the project. What we thought was like a skills program turned out to be a system design problem. Inconsistent support, unspoken expectations, even lack of psychological safety. So I think the biggest lesson I took from that experience was this impact happens when you stop designing for the average employee and start designing for the people who are most likely to be excluded. And when you do that, the solution then becomes better for everyone, and then it becomes more representative. So, and also I think it reinforced the importance of humility in leadership, because I went into this project thinking we needed a new framework, and I came out realizing we needed a new mindset. And that shift only happened because we listened deeply, we created that space for vulnerability, and allowed lived experiences to actually guide that strategy. So that lesson has certainly stayed with me. Real impact isn't just about the size of the project. It's about who you center, how you listen, and whether you're willing to change your assumptions along the way.
What's a piece of strategic advice you found yourself giving more than once?
I think start small, stay human, and design with people, not for them. I know it sounds very simple, but it's the foundation of every meaningful inclusion or social impact initiative I've been part of. I think I often remind teams that big, glossy strategies don't create change on their own. Behavior does. And that behavior shifts when people feel safe, heard, and part of the process. So I generally encourage leaders to bring that vulnerability into the room, to listen without defensiveness, and to really test those small ideas before scaling them. Because what I believe is those micro moves build trust, and then trust is what unlocks the real transformation. I also emphasize a lot, and you've seen it in general with how I'm addressing these questions, is the importance of lived experience in decision making. So whether we are designing workplace adjustments, rethinking recruitment, or even shaping culture, the people most affected by the outcome should be shaping the solution. It's something I've learned through my own disability journey. Because when you center real stories, you design systems that actually work. And finally, I just would like to say that impact is a marathon and not a moment. Stay consistent, stay curious, and don't underestimate the power of those small intentional actions. Because when they compound in ways you don't always see it immediately, but that's when it creates lasting and human centered change.
Next one. So, what's one learning from delivering work at scale that you think others should know?
I think one of the lessons that I've learned from delivering at scale is that consistency matters more than complexity. Because when you're working across multiple markets, and I work across, 80,000 people, 60 markets, there are different cultures, there are different stakeholders. And it's tempting to design something that's big and sophisticated. But what actually creates impact is a clarity, simplicity, and a deep understanding of how people experience the work on the ground. So what I've learned that scale doesn't come from pushing the same solution everywhere. It comes from creating a strong core and then giving people the flexibility to adapt it to their context. So the most successful initiatives I've led were the ones that were co-created with the local teams. Listen to those experiences and built in space for that nuance rather than assuming that one size fits all. Another learning that I think I truly believe works is the importance of storytelling and that role modeling. So when you're trying to shift behavior at scale, people don't follow frameworks. What they follow is people. So being open about, say my own disability or sharing my challenges and showing what inclusion looks like in practice, I think it had built trust and momentum in a way that's no slide deck ever could. And finally, I think I've learned that scale requires a lot of patience. So real impact doesn't happen because you launch something. It happens because you stay with it, you iterate it, and keep bringing people along. The work becomes sustainable when it stops being your project and becomes something that the organization owns collectively. So that's the lesson I carry with me. Design simple, listen deeply, and build movements, not just programs.
Who or what inspires your approach to creating impact through your work?
I think a big part of my inspiration comes from my own journey because I've navigated systems that weren't always designed with me in mind. And actually, that taught me the power of empathy, persistence, and that small acts of inclusion. It also made me realize that impact isn't abstract, it's deeply human. I think I'm also inspired by people who lead with courage and vulnerability. These colleagues who share their stories, challenge norms, and push for that better world, even when they are uncomfortable, reminds me that change starts with that honesty. So their willingness pretty much speaks up tools of my own. So yeah, that's what inspires me.
What is the thing that brings you the most work joy?
Is seeing people feel genuinely seen, supported, and able to thrive, especially when a small action or a conversation has helped them unlock that for them. So I love those moments when someone says, I didn't think that this was possible for me, or thank you, that genuinely made a difference. It reminds me why I do what I do. I also find joy in the human side of the work, that storytelling, that shared learning. When colleagues open about their experiences, or when I share parts of my own journey, and it creates connection or confidence for someone else, I think those moments feel incredibly meaningful. And honestly, I'm energized usually by that sense of purpose. So whether I'm shaping and advocating for inclusive practices, both personally and professionally, or working with our networks, or contributing through, say, a city HR shadow board, or preparing to serve with humanity and inclusion, I feel joy when the work aligns with my values and creates that impact beyond myself. At its core, what brings me joy is simple: helping people feel empowered, included, and able to bring their full selves to work. And knowing that the small things we do every day can create a ripple far bigger than we realize. I think that completely energizes me.
What is your favorite quote that you'd like us to include, and why?
I really reflected a lot on this, but then yeah, I think something that personally resonated with me is "Your life is your message" by Mahatma Gandhi. I think this quotes resonate deeply with me because it captures a sense of how I try to create impact, and not through grand gestures, but through the way I show up every day. My disability journey, my advocacy work, my commitment to inclusion, even the adventure sports I pursue, they're all part of the message I want to send into the world. For me, your life is your message, is a reminder that impact isn't something you switch on for a project or a panel discussion. It's in the choices you make, the courage you show, the stories you share, and the barriers you quietly dismantle. It's in role modeling vulnerability, challenging assumptions, and using your lived experiences to open doors for others. So this quote keeps me grounded in the belief that who you are, consistently, authentically, and unapologetically, can be a catalyst for change. And I think that's the message I hope my work continues to carry.